Good morning.
Good morning. Listen to me.
Where, you're here?
Yeah, right here.
I've walked across fire, been healed by the rain, spoken my deepest desire to a stranger I never saw again. Been down the road less traveled, meditated till my spirit soared, jumped out a plane from 15,000 feet, sat in the desert 4 days without food or water. I thought I'd be more enlightened after all I've been through. Thought I'd be more mature, take it all with a grain of salt, instead of getting caught up like others do. Being human. I'm kinder than I used to be. Stop to smell a rose, enjoy the view. Don't get upset at every little thing. Take time to breathe, take time to think of you. Still I thought I'd be more enlightened, flying high all the time, above the petty stuff, swimming in nothing but love, helping those who still have it rough, instead of tangled up, being human. I loved every adventure, all the stories I get to tell, all made real by the depth of feelings I have felt. Being human, we are spiritual beings living a human experience. 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 Enjoy the ride, spiritual beings, lows and highs, being human.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Morristown. I'm Frankie Timmers. That is Cliff Rubin. And you all know him, right? Yeah. So Cliff is my new prayer partner.
Oh my God.
I have 3. I need 3, believe me. I have Reverend Michelle, usually Sunday mornings. Our beloved Reverend Janice, who's assisting today. She's amazing. I was thinking this morning that all the years that we've been prayer partners, I cannot imagine my life if I hadn't had that with you. Really, I mean. And then there's Cliff, who's like 1 year now. And Cliff is a musician, incredibly talented human being. I keep finding out more talents of his. He was the music director in Asheville Center for Spiritual Living, and now he's the spiritual director at Center for Spiritual Living Edmonton in Canada, with his wife Ashley, who just got her ministerial license. So I'm going to play all of his music today. It's new to me. I hadn't heard it. I knew he was a musician, and I just said, where can I hear your music? And it's everywhere. So Cliff Rubin, that one was called Being Human. So some of us stayed here last night. We slept here on campus. Because last night we had an amazing concert. Thanks to the beautiful Elizabeth, and I finally heard you sing. Yes, and Kathy, who just is the queen of putting together any party. And lots of volunteers that were really wonderful. It was just so fun. There was so much talent and so inspiring. And you know, like Reverend Janice and I were kind of saying how, I don't know if we really want to go. And then when we get here, it's like, I'm so glad I came because there was fun and inspiring and really special.
Only because it was cold out, that's why.
Yes, putting all those clothes on, all those layers. So if you are joining us on live stream today or anytime in the future, we're so glad that you're with us. If anybody is new to us, if you're in person, you get a free book from the bookshelf. If you're not in person, let us know if you'd like to be on our mailing list. You probably are, that's how you found us today, and give us feedback, let us know how we can support you. And we are celebrating the last Sunday in January of the year, Reaching Higher, Going Deeper, and the month of Stepping into Possibility. So Reverend Janice is assisting me today, and I'm really excited because we have a community meeting today, which has to do with me having a little bit more than 1 month here as the spiritual director. It's getting real, and you're all invited because you, not me, are Center for Spiritual Living Morristown. And you, together with the Leadership Council, get to decide what that's going to look like. So you're all invited to stay, and we have a potluck. So thank you to everybody who brought something to eat. We'll have some wonderful snacks. And I want you to grab any flyers over here and post them anywhere if they're appropriate, because we always have something going on at our center that's fun. Sometimes people say to me, I didn't know that was happening, I wish I knew. And I'm like, we announce it, we're on the website, we have flyers, we're on Meetup, we send you a constant contact email. If you don't know what's going on here, let me know, because I'll make sure that you're on the right list. Because sometimes it ends up in your spam folder, right? So there's lots of fun things. Next Sunday, we're going to have a sound bath in here. You need to sign up for it because we can only fit about 17 people. And after that, it's cut off. So if you show up, there might not be a spot for you. We'd love to make a spot for you. So come and join us for that. And then the week after, we have Bill Stone doing his part 2 on dream interpretation. The first one was really interesting and really fun. And then the discovery class, if anybody is interested in a discovery class, which I think most of you that are, I've spoken to you as for membership. If you're online and you want to come to that, let me know, because we had to move that due to that massive winter storm.
Yeah, the blizzard of 2020.
It started at 5:30 in New Brunswick. I was looking out the window since 8 in the morning. And then we have a party on March 6th. You also need to get tickets for that because we don't think we're going to run out of space. But you never know, so get your tickets on Breeze. And the last thing I want to tell you is that those of you that can't come to the party, we have a potluck party type thing on March 2nd here after Sunday celebration, but we are going to also have our annual meeting. This is going to be the shortest, sweetest, simplest annual meeting we probably have ever had in our history. It's going to be quick, easy, simple, but we want to do it that way so that we can then be done with the annual meeting and start partying. Okay, so I wanted to do a few announcements for that. So let's do our Namaste practice where we get to say hello to one another. Namaste is this Sanskrit word that has a meaning, a really long meaning, which is the divinity in me blesses the divinity in you. So you're not just giving, you're also receiving. You're not just receiving, you're also giving. It's really, if you think about it, such a wonderful practice. My teacher used to say giving, receiving should be one word in a dictionary, right? It's something to think about. So put your hands together and say, Namaste. And let's treat our word for affirmative prayer. So we've arrived. We've arrived in this moment, this place, this spiritual community, this time in history, this season, this month, knowing that when we rise above all that and when we take a bird's eye view, there's just this present moment. And each of us brings to this present moment a unique experience of our connection with the divine. Whether we're aware that our breath is miraculous or our heartbeat is miraculous, whether we are aware that there are spiritual principles that we can actually use and are using all the time, or whether we are able to look at the world and know that the way we see the world, we experience it. So today we can look at all the different ways and make a choice in how we see it, how we approach it, and in how we are of service to all of humanity, starting in our own little circle, with little moments, being present and listening to that higher voice that is already within us, and remind us of how we get to express our own vision for humanity, whether it's peace, love, acceptance, kindness, inclusivity, whatever it may be. It is ours to express, and then we get to see it mirrored back to us. And no matter what that looks like, no matter how we experience it, it's an ever-evolving process, and it ever brings us the grist for the mill of our spiritual evolution. So I am so grateful that we're in this together. I'm so grateful for this beautiful teaching that lifts our spirits and reminds us that consciousness creates our reality, that no matter what is going on in the world, there is something higher taking place, and we are willing and able to see it, to know it, and to be of service to it. And anything else and everything else that is not in alignment with that, we can now trust it is dissolved by means of this word and by means of our willingness to let go and let God. And so it is.
So it is.
So, the way I feel right now is I feel like the world is upside down. Like something is crazy. When I look at the news or I pay attention, it's like the world is upside down and all I have to do is do this and then it will turn right side up and everything is going to be okay. How are you all feeling?
Crazy.
Anxious, crazy,
Concerned.
in denial. Some are happy and grateful, right? Because there's always that mix of everything, right? And so I saw this poem, and I was introduced to this poet by Laurie, John Rodell. Laurie introduces us to some amazing poetry. When she does, I pay attention. And this was on Facebook. You know, Facebook has some fabulous stuff in it. It's by John Rodell. It says, me. The world is completely out of control. God. I know. It's such an adventure, right? Me. No. It's like being on a runaway train. I need to feel like I'm in control of my life. God. You want to be in control? Me. Yes. God, you are living on a spinning wet rock of a planet that resides next to a constantly exploding fireball in the middle of an ever-expanding universe that is filled with mysteries beyond your wildest imagination. Me, okay. God, and on this planet that you are hurtling through the great expanse in, you are coexisting with billions of other people who have free will and their own experiences that shape their perspectives and beliefs. Me, yeah, God. And while all this is going on, your soul is residing in your physical body. That is such a miracle of delicate engineering that at any given moment could produce its last heartbeat. Me, right. God, what is it about your existence that you think you have any control of? Me, God, come on. You know the answer to this. What can you control? Me, how kind I am to people. God, yep, and one other thing. Me, what's that? God, how kind you are to yourself. Aside from that, most of everything else is a bit outside of your design. Me, that's a bit terrifying. God, all great adventures are. Isn't that great? John Rodel, R-O-E-D-E-L. It's an adventure, I keep telling myself. This is what I know. For me, the greatest adventure in my life has been the Science of Mind teaching. I was introduced to it 42 years ago. How is that possible? And I know that it has made my journey, my life journey, an incredible adventure. And I have milked it for all it's worth. And there's more to milk because it's my life. It's my everyday life. And so the essence of the teaching, I've kind of been talking about it this month with it being the month of January and doing the 4 chapters in one talk. And then last week coming back to it a little bit online when we were avoiding that massive, massive storm. And then today, what I want to say is the simplest way that I understand the teaching. And it's so simple that I forget all the time. Isn't it interesting how the simplest ways to be, like be kind to myself and others, sometimes can be the most difficult and the most challenging, right? The simplicity is what our spirit already knows. We just forget because the ego mind, the human mind, loves to fight. So I can kind of see that there is 2 things happening. There's the universal and then there's the individual. We say in our teaching that we are spirit individualized. We are the universal individualized. We look at the universal, whatever we call that, God, spirit, love, divine presence, and we personalize it. We individualize it. We use it. We experience it. We express it. We use it for our own growth and evolution. Now, I see it as a spectrum, but I can also see it as a cross. You know, this is the universal and this is the individual, and there's an intersection. The intersection is my life, and my life shows me how I am personalizing or individualizing the universal. So it's really important for us to say, well, let me look at my life, my experience, how I feel, what I think, what I believe, because that is just telling me how I am personalizing, individualizing the universal. And if there's something that's not working for me, the good news is I can change it because I have a mind, I have free will, I have free choice. This is not to be used as a baseball bat, which I know is a favorite thing for some of you to do. It used to be mine. But it's a way to use with kindness and patience and love, trusting and knowing that that's why we were given a lifetime. And for some that's short, and for some that's longer. Or everything in between. So when we say this spectrum of the universal, we say the universal, the universe, or the law is impersonal. When you hear that God, Spirit, the universe, whatever you call it, is impersonal, what comes to mind? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you say God, Spirit, the universe is impersonal?
Non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental.
Available to all.
Available to all.
Loving everyone equally.
Loving everyone equally. No favorites. I know. Darn it. I'm not God's favorite.
I see it as removed from the everyday.
Removed from the every day. Yes, it's very mechanical. It's non-judgmental. It's pure love. We can call it love. It's creative. It's responsive. It reflects the oneness of all life. It's the spirit. It's the soul. It's very unifying. And I love the word oneing. It's oneing, right? And then there's the personal or the individual. So when you say the personal or the individual or spirit individualized or individualizing or making it personal, what are some of the things that pop into your mind with that?
Subjective.
Subjective.
I have access.
I have access.
My relationship with God.
It's my relationship with God, with the impersonal.
Individuality.
It's individuality. It shows often a sense of separation. Because in order for us to experience ourselves as impersonal and personal, universal and individual, soul and human, or soul and ego, there is the both end, right? And that is reflected in our experience. So you might love your partner, but you might hate Joe Green down the street whose dog poops on your lawn every day. You have that freedom. That is not about Joe Green down the street. That's about you, right? It's about us. So we look towards our experience to have a deeper understanding of where the cross-section is, or how the spectrum works for us individually. And Reverend Janice is going to take us through a little practice in a little bit around this idea of using the universal, using the law. So I want to quote from the Science of Mind magazine. The new magazine is, I know it's the end of January, but February is on the other side. There's some great articles in here. It's a little quote by Matthew Fox from Original Blessing, one of my favorite books. He says, fear produces courage, which in fact happens in the midst of fear. Despair produces hope, which is born out of the depths of despair. And vulnerability produces creativity, which requires a capacity to get hurt. So we might have these desires for more courage, more hope, more peace, more creativity. But then, once we state that, we are called to higher ground and to live that by using the impersonal or the universal law. Who remembers what these are? Your scrolls from the last Sunday in December. Those of you that were here for that, what you wrote down is what you would love to experience this year for yourself and for the universe. I recently heard that resolutions are down the toilet by Martin Luther King Day. These are not resolutions. These are intentions that you wrote down is your greatest desire. I am sure all of you have already manifested these, and I can throw them in the recycling bin. Not. Mine, no. But it's my beacon. It's my North Star. It's my intention. And you know what happens when you set a really clear intention for something greater than you're already experiencing? Often, everything that's in the way of that will be in your face, and you'll be slapped by it until you go, oh, wait, this is my vision for myself, which means that what has to go is everything that's in the way, because it's all my consciousness. It's how I am using the law. It's how I am individualizing and personalizing the universal. So did anybody remember what they wrote down? Show of hands. Okay, so what have you noticed gets in the way? Just a brief shout out answer. What has gotten in the way of that?
Fear.
Fear, good one.
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt,
Procrastination.
procrastination. Yes, so it's important to notice. I kind of made a list. Not very specific because some of you were poetic. What do you think was on top of the list that you all wanted?
Peace.
Peace? No.
Yeah. Joy.
Peace was in the middle. Joy was above peace.
Money.
Love. Love. Loving family members that are difficult to love, loving yourself, being more loving in the world, receiving divine love in a bigger way. Love was the top one. The one after that was acceptance, forgiveness, kindness, compassion, embracing oneness. These will be recycled on Saturday because I promised to treat for all of you this whole month, which I have been. So I truly hope that you noticed something, some shift, some bigger aha, some new way of experiencing your life. And so what we wrote down is really telling the law what it is that you want to experience. And what is the law? The law is impersonal, so it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't say, well, you want love? No, Kathy, you're not going to get any love because you already have enough. You have a man. It's enough. It doesn't work that way, even though we might have that belief, right? And so we begin to pay attention to the things that we wrote down, because what they are imprints upon the law in your own personal way. And the law always says what?
Yes.
Yes. If it's saying no by your perception, is because something in us is saying no, right? And so we get to explore that. So the idea that I have then is like a really fabulous camera. I love watching nature shows, and some of the nature shows, when they show the camera person, they are the most massive cameras I've ever seen in my life. You know, the lens alone is like this, right? So I wanted you to imagine that you have a camera like that, and that you get to zoom in, and you zoom out. Zoom in, zoom out. And so with the world being like this, for me this week, I did a lot of zooming out. And with the zooming out, I realized we're at one point in history that's a gazillion years old. And there are waves and ups and downs and ins and outs. And I may have all kinds of opinions of where we are in history right now, but it doesn't matter. What matters is where I stand, who I am, how I speak, what I believe, what I'm doing my spiritual practices for, and what wants to be healed, and how I serve in the world. And maybe it means for some of you that you become more socially active. Maybe it means that you give hope to people. Maybe it means that you get more politically involved in your town. I don't know what it is. Maybe it means you meditate more, you treat more. But if we think about it, about the zooming in and out, it informs what is ours to practice, what is ours to heal, what is ours to change. And so what I've realized is that all the treatments, the meditations, the practices that I've done for 42 years, and some of you may be around on this path even longer. Some of you may be arrived a few months ago, a few weeks ago, a few years ago, 10, 20 years ago, but all the spiritual practices that you have been doing has been training for this. You've been training by means of your spiritual practices, your own evolution, for this moment in history, for this moment in your life, for all the experiences that you're having in your life, for all the challenges that are showing up now. You have been training for this. You have been building spiritual muscle for this moment. And so sometimes we say, well, I should treat more, I should meditate more, I should take more classes, I should study more. But it's not just that. It's for now. It's for the future as well. It's for what comes next, so that we're prepared when the you-know-what hits the fan. You're spiritually, mentally, emotionally prepared to handle it. It may get worse before it gets better. That seems to be the picture when I look at what's happening in the world. Climate change, discrimination, hatred, political divides, you name it, war, right? And so I'm not affirming that. I'm just saying it may, and what does that mean that's required of me? How do I prepare? So the preparation is your spiritual life. It's your spiritual practices. It's noticing what you remember, what you forget, and how you work with that. Last Sunday, I shared a quote by Martin Luther King that I had never heard before. It was something that he preached early on when he talked about the 3 dimensions in life. There's 3 dimensions in life. There's length, which represents our connection with ourselves. There's breadth. Did I say it right? Broadness, breadth. Sounds like breath. Breath. There is breadth, which is our connection to community. And then there is height, which is our connection to the transcendent. So the dimensions of our lives of how are we connected to ourselves? And what does that say? How does that show up in my life? Where do I feel a disconnect? And what do I need? And where can I go to fulfill that need if it needs to be outside, right? Then the connection with community, you're all set. We have a wonderful community. You have a wonderful community that is here for you to support you. You receive so much. It's available for the taking, with practitioners and ministers and a beautiful leadership council that are here to support you. And we're going to talk later about what's next, right? And I'm sure that many of you are parts of other communities that fill your heart and lift you up. And then there's height, which is the connection with the transcendent, what we know in our teaching, that is everything. My connection, your connection with the impersonal, and whatever we call it, is so base, is so foundational. When a few weeks ago, I asked you to think of a name for God that makes you have an orgasm. That's not how I said it. But your name for God that makes you feel something like, oh, that makes you feel in love, and makes you feel high, and makes you feel happy and grateful and trusting, is powerful, right? It's important that we have that connection and that we feel that and that we spend time there every day. Well, there's a reason why people say, oh God, when anyway. So how are you then using the impersonal? How are you using the universal law? Whoa, where did my mind just go? It was upside down for me. The impersonal, and how do we make it come alive? So there's a couple of things that I have as ideas, because what's asked of us now is a lot. Those of us who are on a spiritual path, a lot is asked of us. We're being asked to be grown-ups and not be children. Children are, grown-ups are like, let's come together and let's do this together. Let's lift ourselves and each other up, right? And so the thing is that it requires movement. It requires movement. How's your body moving these days? I know when it's cold, I do this. How's your body moving this day? Is it easy for you to move, to get up, to get down? How is the movement in here? These are all things we want to think about. How's the movement in my mind? How's the movement in my heart? How is my movement at all levels, at all dimensions? Because change is happening all the time. We would love to have life be a certain way and stay a certain way. We'd love to stay rich. We'd love to stay healthy. We'd love to, all those things that we are passionate about. But it's not going to happen in any way, shape, or form because change is constant. So how do we navigate through change? How do we move through change? And I have a great quote later. And we ask ourselves that question. How do I adapt to the changes that are taking place in my life, the changes that are taking place in the world, and how I respond? And what we do is we explore our beliefs, because the law individualized is our belief system. Your and my belief system is how I am applying the universal law. So that's why it's important for me to zoom in and out and explore some of the things that I believe. And then I make choices to act from love, to act from kindness, to remember to just keep it really simple. And you are all doing that already, all the time. You're doing it to your pets, maybe more than people. You're doing it to the people you love. You might be doing it at your local grocery store with going to the same register because you like that person. You do it when you go to a gas station. I do. You might do it when you're on the road and you let somebody pass, right? We're doing it all the time already. We just grow and expand and extend that beyond where we are. And then we are in service. Because we've all been practicing and because we've all made for this moment, we are in service to a greater idea. And what that means for each of us is very, very different. But it's important to find out and then to be of service in that way. I ask every day, Spirit, what's mine to do? What's mine to do, or what's mine to be? When I struggle with something, what's mine to be? And then we ask ourselves, how can I be a healing presence? It's a similar way of being of service. How can I be a healing presence? Not just when it's easy, because that's easy, but when it's difficult. And that means that we have to get quiet so we can hear that inner voice. And then, I don't know what I wrote down, and then our lives. Where does it start? Where does it all start? Within. I forget to. Where does it start? It starts within, right? And then my life, your life, informs what practices are required all the time. Our lives informs us what's required all the time. Imagine that you are your best friend and your best friend is going through your challenge, and you say to them, what do you think I should do? They'd be happy to tell you, but there is something within you that knows this as well. So begin to listen. And if none of this works, just let everything go. Just let it go. Just let people be, let things happen, let it go, and practice that. We live in really interesting times, don't we? There's a reason why you and I are alive here and now. And we're ready for this because Spirit within us has prepared us. Our spiritual life, being part of this community, has prepared us. And so the question is, how do I participate? Do I make it into an adventure? Or what's the opposite of an adventure? Challenge? Boredom?
Yeah, really.
Struggle?
Catastrophe.
Disaster? It's up to us. It's really up to us. If you choose not to make it an adventure, freaking own it and rock it. instead of judging ourselves for it, and just go with it, knowing that change will come, because change is happening when?
Always.
All the time. And what's the only thing that's changeless?
Spirit.
Spirit within, the impersonal. Yes, so we're going to listen to Cliff Rubin again. And this song is called
Fear to free.
Fear to Free. And then you get to have Janice do a practice with us. Fear to Free. He's not on any list, so I have to go to his website, which is Old Hippie and the Glamour Girl. I'll show you the picture later.
There came a time when I blew out of here to leave behind something I feared. I moved around from town to town, but that dang fear always found me. So I returned to the scene of the crime, still thinking that fear wasn't mine. I looked everywhere for someone to blame, but the charges wouldn't stick, unfortunately. Fear can take your breath away and burst your dreams into a million pieces. But you can look it in the eye, and step by step you'll see. You walk on through the fear to free, from fear to free, into possibility. Fear to free. There's just no telling who you can be when you walk on through the fear to free. I saw a woman fill the stage right, take the stage to everyone's delight. I knew a man finally left his home, hadn't been outside for 40 years gone. People ordinary, doing the extraordinary,
I am going to lead us in a spiritual practice, but I have to talk a little first. That's just how I roll. So I want to really focus on the idea of the law. So when I first found the teaching 25 years ago, I happened to be working for a law firm. And the only way I understood the law was through the filters of that law, okay? So when I first discovered the real meaning of spiritual law, and I didn't plan to do this, but I mentioned it to Frankie just before, it literally turned my life inside out. Literally inside out. Not just that it was a whole other definition of law, but here's the thing. When I realized that this law is a blind force, an impersonal force, and whatever I put into the law by means of me happened. So at first it was like, yay, I want money, I want love, I want, you know. And then, of course, you get whatever else is in your consciousness. So then I really realized that's what turned my life inside out. With great power, as Spider-Man's uncle said, comes great responsibility.
Yes.
Great responsibility. So I now have to be fully responsible for whatever is in my consciousness that I am going to personalize this incredible law with. So here, this is right from the Science of Mind textbook. Ernest Holmes describes the law and our use of the law. Whatever we think, believe in, feel, visualize, vision, imagine, read, talk about. In fact, all processes which affect or impress us at all, are going into the subjective state of our thought, which is our individualized use of universal mind. All of that. It's a big responsibility. And since law is a blind force, impersonal, that's what it means. Whatever you put into it, whatever goes into the subjective state of our thought, tends to return again as some condition. So the question is, I'm on camera, so I can't, if somebody's just tuning in, I want to think badly of me. Why does she have her jacket on inside out? Okay. You look nice. I look good? It's reversible. So the question, the only question we're going to focus on in this practice today is, what are we putting into the law? Okay, what are we putting into the law? So we have just moved through a very auspicious week in the United States, right? On Monday, we inaugurated a new president, and it happened to fall on the same day that we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. Now, I don't know if you thought this, but I thought this. Seems like their values were very different. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to identify them or spend any energy on why they're different or how they're different. We're going to use our energy to look at what we're going to put in the law, but I want to focus for just a minute on how Dr. Martin Luther King used the law for good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. King also used the law, I think, in the most dramatic and memorable way in August of 1963 when he delivered his I Have a Dream speech. And he said this: I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, we would say now, all people are created equal, right? Okay. Now, when Dr. King spoke these words 62 years ago, it was incredibly less visible in the planet than it is today. Now, I know that our freedoms are being threatened. I'm aware of that. But they weren't even in existence in 1962 when he spoke those words, right? But he spoke them with conviction over and over and over again. In the face of true racial injustice. And after being arrested 30 times for speaking them, he said, I love this line, I have the audacity to believe this. I mean, look at the conditions. None of them were manifested as that. I have the audacity to believe this. So, do we have the audacity to remain true to what we know is true, that we are created equal?
Yes.
Yes, right? We have the audacity in spite of appearances, in spite of what is being said, whether it's happening in the political arena, whether it's happening in our own communities, whether it's happening in our homes, or whether it's just happening in our minds. Because remember, every part of that is what's going into the subjective, what we're putting into the law. So I was always stirred by Martin Luther King's words, that he spoke with such confidence and courage, because it reminds me, and it can remind us today, that we have the same universal law available to us. And when we act with commitment and confidence and courage and compassion, universal law establishes itself around our dream, and we begin to live the license of a higher order, which Martin Luther King said and Ernest Holmes said. The license of a higher order. So the question remains, what dream do you want to inaugurate? What dream do you want to inaugurate? And Dr. Frankie had the beautiful scripts that you wrote. So it could be something you wrote. It could have evolved from that. It could be something new. What dream do you want to inaugurate? It could be personal. It could be global. It could be individual, right? So, and I love that song, From Fear to Free. So if freedom is something that you want to inaugurate, and I always think of a dream, I always have like a theme to my dream. So my dreams aren't always like detailed, and they can be just to get a feeling, but I always think of it as a feeling tone to the dream, a theme to the dream. So if it's freedom that you want to inaugurate as part of your dream, it's not only that saying it and affirming it every day, which is very important, because affirmations give direction to our subjective mind and our thoughts for the whole day. It's an intention we're setting. How often are you living from that place? If you affirm that, do you then go on social media and try to find every place where it's not being proved out so you can say, see? Right? I know, I start to sounding like you, which I'm very proud of, and I hope to always do. So we have to, like Dr. Frankie says, we forget, we remember, we forget, we remember. And if you've ever taken a class with me, I always teach that we do this with the deepest compassion and kindness for ourselves. When we remember, my subjective mind went back to that place, those old grooves, those old neural networks, I've caught it. And I can now call in love, because Ernest Holmes says it's love and law. Law is impersonal, blind force, whatever you put into it, even if it's not loving, the law is impersonal. We don't like that. We want the law to say, oh no, you're not a loving person. I'm not going to work for you. If only, right? Well, it wouldn't work for me sometimes either, so. But it's always working. It's always working. So we notice, we bring compassion, and we stay in the place of practicing freedom, if that's what we want. I love that love was the top, the winner, the won the poll of the dreams for the year. So again, we affirm, I know I am living this day as a loving presence. Because as within, so without. So if we want more love, where does it start? By being a loving presence, right? And then we notice as we go through the day when we're not. And we just notice it. And then we can surrender that part of our humanness to our divinity, to the love that is always infusing us and inherent in us. Okay? We don't have to wrestle with it. We just surrender it and reclaim it. Misuse of the law, Ernest Holmes says, is believing that there's more than one. Believing that there's a law of sickness and a law of health. That there's a law of lack and a law of abundance. There's one law. And that law is guided by love, is guided by the absolute, is guided by the all. So when you notice that you're focusing perhaps on sickness, do you believe that's a law? Or is there only one law? And then you allow that law to be the law that you personalize and that works in your life. So the practice is going to be this in a moment. when you speak your word into the law, and Reverend Frankie references, and it's such an important part of our spiritual practices. What is the first thing that comes back? What is in the way of it in your mind? So if you speak, I am healthy, whole, and complete, and the first thing that's come back is, what about your aches and pains? What about what the doctor said? What about, if that's the first thing that comes back, then you recognize, oh, I must still believe in the law of sickness. And that's okay. Recognizing it, awareness is the first step in healing it, right? So that is what you just relax into and surrender into the love, into the truth, right? And just affirm, I believe fully in the one law, the law of wholeness. And moving from that, we're going to just do this practice in a moment, but that will show you what you need to be free of. Like Dr. Frankie said, that you want to be free of doubt, uncertainty, insecurity, unworthiness. That's a big one for me, unworthiness. You know, when I claim something, you know, who are you to have that? What about everybody else? What about the rest of the world? You know, it starts with us. So that's what you want to be free of. So when you call your practitioner, you know, we're going to all call our practitioners to help us this year. When I treat for people, and practitioners are trained this way, we're not just treating to change the situation of their life. We're treating to shift that which is not the truth. So I want treatment to feel worthy. I want treatment to be clear if we're not clear. I want treatment. So that's what gets affirmed in our subconscious, and then from that, we have a different experience. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Like Dr. Frankie said, we're all being called. This is the time. This is the time we're being called to be spiritual warriors and stand in the truth. So, I invite you to close your eyes. Just take a deep breath. And if you're comfortable, place your hand over your heart, because just allow yourself to feel the warmth of your hand meeting the warmth of your heart. This is the love of God that is inherent within you. And from this place, in order to inaugurate our dream, I invite you to ask the question, what would I love to experience in my life or in the world? What would I love? What is the dream that is mine to inaugurate and bring forth? What would I love? And how will I feel when I'm living this? And it could be something you've already intended for this year, or it could be something that's coming up now in this group, in this community, when we're all one, practicing oneness. And now in your own mind, I invite you to speak that into the law. We know we speak affirmatively in the present. So it's I am love, I know love, I am free, I know freedom, I am healthy, whole, complete. Speak your word with confidence, with courage, with commitment, with compassion into the law in your own mind. And now just notice honestly if there's anything that comes up from your subconscious. Doubt, uncertainty, fear, whatever. Just let it, invite it to show its face. It doesn't have to hide in the shadows. What is that? And invite it into the love, the inherent love, God's love that dwells within you, to be transmuted, to be dissolved. And breathe into that. And make the commitment, if you can, to live from this place. And to notice when you forget. And to intend and commit to return to this love. It is love that leads the way, and it is law that brings the way about. Let love lead the way, let the law bring it about. Surrender, accept, allow. And now just feel a deep sense of gratitude trusting and knowing it is done, it is so, and so it is. Whenever you're ready, come back. Thank you. Thank you for initiating your dream. For all of us, for all of us. Okay, it is time now to share our abundance. It is time to allow yourself to check in to that stream of ever-flowing good that exists within you, all around you, and allows you to be the giver, to give the gift so that more can receive and you can continue to receive, because we trust the law of circulation. As we give, so we receive. There are many ways to give, as you know. We can give through PayPal, through Venmo, on our Breeze app. We're going to pass this around, which I guess I should start now. You can put your donation in there. We are so grateful for all that you give and all that you are. We appreciate, too, all that you give in your time and sharing your talents and sharing your gifts in all ways. But I invite you now to join me in affirming this divine love by repeating after me and saying it along if you already know. Divine love consecrates my gift.
Divine love consecrates my gift.
It goes forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless.
It goes forth to heal, prosper, and bless.
It returns to me multiplied abundantly.
It returns to me multiplied abundantly.
As I share my good, I accept my greater good.
As I share my good, I accept my greater good.
So it is. So it is. That's it? We're complete? We got everything? Okay. I personally invite you to attend our community meeting today. It's going to be a little different than the other gatherings we have had. We've had a couple so far because Dr. Frankie will be with us. And we are really focusing this on giving her the space to share her journey and to open the space for any questions you may have and so forth. So that's going to be the main focus. And there will be some time if you have questions about where we're going, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on that today because we've established a lot of things. But if you haven't been at the other meetings and you have questions, of course, the Leadership Council is here to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, but it's a time to celebrate Dr. Frankie today because we're just kicking off all of those celebrations, and we're just going to keep going from there. So I invite you now to join me in a closing treatment. So we just take a breath and feel the majesty of all that God is, that is present in this space, in this place, in our hearts, in our being, in our bodies. And as we allow ourselves to feel it emanating in every cell of our being, we know that that is what is moving through us and connecting us to each other, to all those in this room, to all those in our greater community, in our families, and to all those in the world, wherever they are, in their personal experience of personifying the universal mind. We connect with them now in this place where we meet in our hearts, where we are always connected, where there is only one mind, where there is only one love. And in this place and in this space, we allow that love of God to create itself through and as us in new and greater ways, to presence itself through and as us in newer and greater ways, to inform us of what is ours to do with our personal individualized expression of universal mind, to guide us and to provide us with all that is required to live out our lives as expressions of love and peace and joy and harmony and abundance. We know that that is what is happening here at Center for Spiritual Living Morristown as we go through the transition that we are going through. We know that as the world goes through the transition it is going through, it is all necessary and required for a greater experience of our divinity, our shared divinity in the world that allows for us to live a license of a higher order, that allows for us to all not only know that we are created equal and are one, but to experience that as the dominant vibration on the planet. And so I know that it's happening right here. It's not in the future. It's here. It's now. We're feeling it. We're being it. We're doing it. And we're allowing ourselves to be the vessels for this expression in the world. And I know that because it is what we would love to live, it is the dream we are inaugurating, that we have everything we need to bring it about. And that it happens easily, gently, and gracefully, even in times of change, even in times when it feels challenging. We have everything we need to move us forward. We have all of the faith that we need. Our belief is strengthened beyond measure and beyond anything it has ever been before. And so for this and so much more, we are so very grateful that we allow it to happen so easily, as I right now know that this word spoken in law must return full, and we experience it as full together. And for this, again, and so much more, we say thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. All of you. Time to eat. As we say in my family, mangia bella.
I am a powerful creator, spiritual being.